Good afternoon. You're watching the CNews Live Report at noon. I'm Karen Kozer-Phillip.
And I'm Masira Mohammed with sport.
At the top of the news, a domestic dispute leaves a 31-year-old mother dead and her 13-year-old daughter in critical condition at hospital. Khadija Dipchan was said to be at her Rio Claro home at about 1 o'clock this morning when she and a male friend were having an argument, after which she was allegedly chopped several times. Her 13-year-old daughter was said to have witnessed her mother's killing. Police said the child was also chopped. The body of a man of East Indian descent has been found floating off King's Wharf in San Fernando. The body was seen just before 6:30 this morning by beachgoers. The body is yet to be identified. The district medical officer who examined the body said there did not appear to be any marks of violence. The body has since been removed from the waters and officers are continuing their investigations. 31-year-old Tobago fisherman Rennie Richardson, who went missing at sea on Sunday, was found off the waters of Grenada alive and well. Grenada fishermen acted upon information relayed to them by popular Tobago pastor and fisherman George Alexander, who is originally from Grenada. Mr. Alexander updated Plymouth residents who were gathered at the Plymouth jetty last evening on Richardson's ordeal.
John Alexander called me and let me know that they found him. And prior to that, let me say, last night I did make a number of telephone calls to Grenada and asked my nephew to put out a search for him. And this morning, 7 boats went out searching for Rennie. Just around 5 o'clock this evening, my nephew called and said that one of the boats that went out on the search got him and they brought him in and he was safe.
Mr. Alexander said he also made contact with Grenada police officers.
The report that I received from the Grenada police just a short while ago while coming home is that he went through all the medicals at the Maribo Hospital and he's in good health.
Around 6 a.m. on Sunday, Richardson went out to sea from Plymouth Bay to ply his trade, but did not return home after an entire day. To other news now, the Prime Minister says he gives his government a 7 out of 10 as it relates to its performance over the past year. Speaking this morning on TV6's Morning Edition, Dr. Rowley said this could have been lower, but based on economic conditions, his government has done well.
You got 7.5, you got 8, you got 9, you got 10. So you're aiming for 10 all the time, right? But the reason why I give myself 7, or the government 7, is that one has to understand where we're starting from, as against if the environment was different and the circumstances were as they are, well then I would have given the government a lower grade.
The Prime Minister also explained many things have to be changed, one of which is the mentality that the government should be the main provider for its citizens. We will have details on the major talking points of the Prime Minister a little bit later in the newscast. Now, WASA customers in the Chaguanas area are currently experiencing a disruption in their pipe-borne water supply. Well, the authority says this is due to a ruptured 21-inch transmission main along the Solomon Ho-Choi Highway in the vicinity of Mulchan-Suchan Road. WASA says it is presently engaged in carrying out emergency repair work, which was expected to be completed by noon today. Affected areas include Chaguanas Main Road, including side streets, Eleanor Street, Lange Park, and Edinburgh 500. And you're watching the CNews Live Report at noon. Remember, you can keep up to date with all the latest news on our website at ctvtt.com, or you can check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at CNews Live. Now let's take a look at the weather.
Remains quite a bit of moisture around with a nearby tropical wave set to come through on Thursday. We will likely see cloudy spells as we go through today and a couple of showers turning heavy or thundery, especially around the Gulf of Paria during the heat of the afternoon. Expect a high of 34 degrees Celsius in Trinidad and 32 degrees Celsius in Tobago. For those heading offshore, look for a slight to moderate chop of 1.5 to possibly 2 meters out in the Atlantic, but closer to 1.5 meters through the Caribbean Sea with easterly winds of 10 to 15 knots and easterly swells of 9 seconds. Low tide at 2:30 is followed by high tide at 8:30. That is the latest weather, and I am meteorologist Dean Wallace.
Today marks 1 year since the PNM won the general election, defeating the People's Partnership. And as his party marks their first anniversary in office, the Prime Minister says he understands some of the anxieties of the population. This morning he spoke on TV6's Morning Edition program on several issues, including the budget and crime. Rishi Harinanan has a recap.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley said the 2016-2017 budget should be presented before the end of September and warned the coming year will be very difficult. However, he says government will do what it has to ensure the country does not end up in the hands of the International Monetary Fund.
With all that we are doing now in terms of rolling back our expenditure, if we don't do that now ourselves and we allow what has been going on to continue against the background of our loss of revenue, that is a recipe for an IMF program.
He explained citizens can expect some level of discomfort, but noted it will be spread across all sectors equally. Dr. Rowley assured government knows the issues and will work to ensure it does not hit the population too hard.
We know what the issues are there, but we are going to do it in a way to minimize the deleterious effects on the population. But there will be some element of reduction in comfort and even some pain for all of us, which will be shared because the country's situation has changed.
On the issue of salary increases for parliamentarians, Dr. Rowley said there will be no increase, at least until there is a turnaround in the economy.
There will be no increase in salary for members of the cabinet, of the government, until we have got past this situation that we are, where we are here now.
But citizens can expect more taxes, despite the Prime Minister admitting citizens have not seen much benefits thus far. He attributed this to wastage, mismanagement and incompetence.
There are going to be some adjustments around the and we have to look for revenue areas, and some things are going to have to change.
We look at crime now, and Dr. Rowley has defended his National Security Minister and plans for fighting crime, saying it will take time before the actions can reap rewards.
If we stay on the job and we stay focused, it's a question of identifying the problem and addressing it with the best options. And I think we're doing that. But the results are not going to be today for today. This instant result that some people are expecting in crime fighting.
He said police officers are not keeping pace with criminals and reiterated the motivating factor for crime is the fact that people think they will not be caught, and if they do get caught, they will not be prosecuted.
Many years ago, the police service was not sufficiently responsive, and some people might even come to the conclusion that is not up to the task. It is for the government to ensure that our policing and security agencies, whether it is the Coast Guard, the police, the information gathering, that they are up to the task in responding.
Now, the Prime Minister said his government is prepared to deal with white-collar crime.
As the head of the government, can simply say we support the other arms of the state in the prosecution of white-collar crime. However, the country has an extremely poor record in its institutions in doing that. As a matter of fact, if we're not careful in the way things are going, it could very well be or come across that if you are in a certain station in the country, you're above the law, because you could fund your way through obstruction in the courts, you could fund your way through getting the lawyers, best lawyers, and others can't, and the system really is not working.
Dr. Rowley said the system of governance as is not working well, but made it clear he is willing to lose his job as Prime Minister if, when changes are made, they are not supported by the people.
I do not want the sentiment of the population to be that the government of Trinidad and Tobago is a corrupt government. That let's start with that, because corruption deprives, especially those who are least able to look after themselves and who may rely on the state for assistance in one way or the other, or whose assets should be working for them. If we waste, corruption, abuse, we got to throttle that back. But to do that, you have to have systems of accountability, and you have to enforce those accountability systems.
To health now, and the Prime Minister said persons can expect an improvement in the health sector in the near future. This, as he noted, government should receive a report next week, which gives a detailed review of the health system.
When they put that reporting, we expect the report will give us a good insight as to what the issues are in the healthcare delivery effort, what can be done, what is doable in the short term, the medium term, the long term, and then it's for the government now to implement going forward what we can afford to implement, because some of it might cost something that we can't afford, but whatever we can afford, we do that. And when we do that, the expectation is that these responses will bring about improvements in the original objective, which is to deliver better health care to the population.
And just to remind you, the Prime Minister was speaking on TV6's Morning Edition program earlier today. Now, Minister of Sport Darrell Smith says for the past year he's been in office, he is most proud of eradicating corruption from his ministry. The minister says while there's still more weeding to be done, he's pleased with the journey thus far.
Not just in the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs, but the government overall, a big task we had was to clean up the system. You can't come in swimming against the current of mismanagement and corruption and stuff. It was really ridiculous. I mean, basic policies and just basic proper human behavior was lacking inside of there.
And as Member of Parliament for Diego Martin Central, he says top of the list was flooding.
Good question. One of the big problems that occurred in Diego Martin, not just Central, all of Diego Martin, was flooding. And when we won local government election in October 2013, that was our main drive. And as Diego Martin Central hasn't flooded for the past 3 years since I've been chairman.
Staying on the topic of government's first year in office, any government should make an explosive impact in important areas of the economy. That's the view of former Minister of Finance, Mariano Brown. He says the nation has to look at what has happened in the economy in the past year to gauge the effects of the government's plans.
So that is a critical issue. So the economy, healthcare, security, education. Those are the 4 big-ticket items. And let's look back and see what the pronouncements have been and where they've carried us. A year is a short time, so it's 5 years. You have to make a big bang, a big impact in your first 2 years. And we haven't had a big bang in anything in the first one. So let's see what will happen in the next one.
Mr. Brown says that a priority listing for their plan is missing and needs to be put in place as they move forward into the second year of their governance. He notes that the circumstances surrounding their entry into office were not so favorable.
They inherited a difficult proposition, but they came underprepared, and it is more or less what one would expect when you haven't prepared properly, but it is difficult. So there are a lot of things that have to be done. Healthcare cannot be fixed in a year. Crime cannot be fixed in a year, but you can make some big starts. And so far we have big starts in nothing. Education seems to have done okay. The economy is limited in terms of how you can handle that. It's a question of slow going process, but what is missing is really a sense of priorities and understanding of what are the critical areas that are going to be attended to.
Now to our noontime poll question, and with the Prime Minister saying the budget presentation will be made before the end of September and hearing different views on the government's performance over the last 12 months, we asked you, what do you think the government can improve on for the next fiscal year? This question was posted on our Facebook page, and here's what some of you had to say. Betty Felix said government should put more resources in healthcare and crime and unemployment. J. Willie asked for attention to be placed on crime, healthcare, education, social services, the unemployment rate, especially among the youths. He went on to say the PNM is doing absolutely nothing to help the youth, especially as it relates to the high unemployment rates. He went on to say 1 year has gone and they keep advertising positions and not hiring. Politicians that have defrauded the taxpayer should be held accountable and punished, said Kenneth Ramjit. And Nigel Ragbir said the cost of living should be improved. Remember, you can keep sharing your views with us, or all you have to do is visit our Facebook or Twitter pages at CNews Live. Now, Hummingbird Silver Medal recipient for technical training, Anstey Payne, wants to see more done to develop those who have chosen to enter the field of technical, vocational and education training in Trinidad and Tobago. He suggested the development of youth camp facilities as well as accreditation for technical programs. On CTV's morning show, he compared the experience a student gets from a university to a tech-voc institution.
Different aspects. Let's look at industry, pumps, compressors, turbines. Right. You would have done the theory, you would have done the calculations, but when you see the turbine, you might be surprised that that is the turbine that we were talking about. Right? But you did all the calculations with. When you come to the technical stream now, you have done all the practical. And those are the people that I'm saying, develop them, give them the opportunities to develop.
The United States beat Trinidad and Tobago 4-0 to win Group C in CONCACAF World Cup qualifying and secure its position in the hexagonal with a spot at the 2018 World Cup in Russia on the line. Both teams were already through to the final round of qualifying in November, but the USA finished atop the group with 13 points, 3 more than TNT. Trinidad and Tobago were on the front foot early, and Jovan Jones tested Howard in the 7th minute with a left-footed shot from the distance, but the Colorado Rapids goalkeeper easily handled it. A 17-year-old first-time starter Christian Pulisic was the catalyst for much of his team's success in an impressive home victory for the Americans. And Sasha Kleistan opened the scoring for the US in the 44th minute when he found himself in perfect position to finish a goal-mouth scramble and poor defending by the Soca Warriors, and he poked the ball in from 10 yards out. In the second half, however, Kenwin Jones got free in the US area for some nice build-up from the TNT midfield, but his effort from close range went well over and unrushing Howard's crossbar. The game, though, began to stretch out in the second half as it progressed, and both teams saw counter and attack chances go begging. In the 59th minute, however, Josie Altidore doubled the lead for the hosts, powering a right-footed shot past Phillip to become the all-time World Cup qualifying goal scorer for the Americans. 3 minutes later, Altidore was on the score sheets again when he tapped in from a well-placed cross to make it 3-0. And in the 71st minute, substitute debutant Paul Arriola found himself wide open following a rebound from Pulisic to slot it home, making it 4-0 to the USA. Trinidad and Tobago next begin play in the Hex against Costa Rica on November 11th at home at the Hazley Crawford Stadium. And on to news of cricket now. And in the wake of the recently abandoned test match at the Queen's Park Oval, where only 22 overs were possible on the first day of the 5-day match between India and the West Indies because of a wet outfield, the WICB has moved swiftly to improve the skills level of regional curators. International Cricket Council pitch consultant Andy Atkinson is at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua conducting an intensive 2-day workshop for Caribbean curators. This course is designed to assist with the development of the participants who handle regional test venues. The workshop will take a comprehensive look at pitch allocation, rotation, maintenance, drainage, outfield management, and will offer technical guidance for the participants. He last conducted a similar workshop back in 2011. And among the 25 participants are 3 from Trinidad and Tobago, 2 from the Queen's Park Oval in Andy Alexander and Gerard Ramkisoon, and the UTT's Kenneth Stewart. With the Secondary School Football League Premier Division starting tonight, it's dominated by teams from the North and the South. However, there is a huge expectations for the 2 East Zone teams. As the 2016 season begins tonight, San Juan North Secondary is being called upon to defend that reputation and survival of the zone. C Sports visited Bourg-Malatris on the eve of their season opener against Naparima College, the defending champions.
It's not a pressure, it's a responsibility. It's a responsibility first to the school, to the people in the environment and the whole of San Juan, Santa Cruz area, you know. A lot of people support San Juan North from behind the scenes, so it's a responsibility to these people for us to be in the premiership at all times.
After 3 seasons of the new format, the East and Central Zone teams have withered away. But San Juan North secondary coach Jerry Moore believes it's not to be blamed neither on the quality of players nor the new structure of the league.
I think it's good for the league to have promotion and demotion. In my time when I played, that's how it was. So I'm accustomed to it, and all over the world it have promotion and demotion, and that brings competitiveness. You know, I think the teams in the East Zone just have to prepare a little bit better. But most importantly, the coaches got to teach, not just coach, but you got to be able to teach the youngsters to get what you want out of them. You know, and that's the challenge right now with the schools in the East Zone. Having said that, the schools in the North Zone and the school in the South Zone and Central Zone, they probably have the same problems as the schools in the East, so it's up to the coaches to find a way for them to be successful.
Coach Moore will oversee his third season with Sanwa North Secondary, also known as Book, but his first without his fearsome frontman, who almost always single-handedly carried the team on his broad shoulders.
The first time in 5 years, Brent Sam won't be the face of Sanwa North. He's been playing for the school from since Form 2. With this team here, it will be more of a collective effort because most of the guys here were playing under 16 last year. You know, we are a team in transition. It's a young team, but they work really hard in preparation. And I expect us to have a good season.
A good season could be made or broken in their opening match against the defending champions, Naparima College.
Once we beat Naparima, the whole day will be upset because nobody expecting us to beat Naparima because we are a much younger side than last year. So once we beat them tomorrow, yeah.
Now here's a look at what's taking place in and around the region.
Jamaica is trying to cash in on the multi-billion-dollar health and wellness tourism sector that several Caribbean countries are turning to in order to boost visitor numbers. But it won't be traditional medicine it plans to use to reach a high in tourist arrivals. Minister of Tourism Edmund Bartlett said Jamaica's lush and rustic southwestern coast is ideally suited for the concept of cannabis-infused tourism, where products made from the herb would play a major part in the tourism sector. The United Kingdom is set to deport 50 persons to Jamaica today. Yesterday, a group protested outside the Jamaican High Commission, calling for the Commission to prevent this. Grenada has launched a campaign to woo Barbadians to the Spice Isle as part of an initiative to increase its visitor arrivals from the Caribbean. Chief Executive Officer of the Grenada Tourism Authority, Rudy Grant, is leading a delegation that will hold talks with travel agents this week. He said that the GTA has also held a similar promotion drive in Trinidad, which has proved to be successful, and they are now targeting the Barbados market, which has the potential for significant growth. In Guyana, National Communications Network Chief Executive Officer Lennox Cornett has agreed to reinstate the pregnant anchor Natasha Smith during a meeting with the Guyana Press Association. Prior to the meeting, local media operators and members of Guyana's Women and Gender Equality Commission picketed the NCN head office in the capital, Georgetown. Smith was reportedly suspended for being pregnant. For the second time this year, Royal Caribbean's Anthem of the Seas sailed into weather that rocked the boat and upset passengers in every sense of the term. The massive cruise ship reportedly sailed near some of the stormiest sections of post-tropical Hurricane Hermine en route to Bermuda on Sunday evening, battling raging seas and winds in excess of 100 miles per hour.
That brings us to the end of C News at noon. C News, powered by our team of journalists and producers across the Republic and the region, on television, radio and online.
C News, your country, our job.